Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I'm your host, Andrew. Joining me tonight, we've got Joe. How you holding up, bud?
Holding up, man. Holding up. Certainly have some feelings on the trade deadline, which will be pretty obvious in a little while.
You and me both. I got a lot of feelings about this trade deadline, and when it comes to my team, they aren't nice ones. I think I can safely lead with that, and I'll get more into that later because I've got a lot of feelings about how it was handled by the Atlanta organization, and I am very, very, very displeased at how it happened, and even more displeased when I heard of some of AA's comments in an interview afterwards. So, yeah. Andrew's ready to. Yeah, I'm ready to go off a little bit on Alex Andopoulos, and you know me, I've been a fan of Andopoulos. I've given him a lot of slack over the years, but yeah, it's time to go off the other way a little bit. So on that note, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I'm still kicking the Pepsi Zero a little bit, but I've also got Wits Peak. It's a NA Belgian style white from Athletic Brewing. That'll be round 2. So that's my other one.
Very nice. I'm gonna stick with Sorbetto for another week, the sour ale, because sour ale's about where I'm at this season. Probably where I'm going to stay at for the remainder of this season, because boy, there is nothing worse than watching your team sink in the NL East, and it has to be the freaking Phillies and the Mets rising to the top. Nothing is worse. Anyway, moving on. Biases are always loud on home podcasts. Anyway, first, I wanted to play the tribute the Cubs did for Ryne Sandberg, who the news broke of his passing last week as we were getting ready to wrap up. So we're gonna do that first. Is that the right? Yeah, it's the right one.
Cubs made a big trade for rookie infielder Ryne Sandberg.
He was a player to be named later. That meant they didn't even want you.
Ramos hit for right field. Hey, what a play! He's out!
The trade did me a lot of good.
Line drive, great play by Sandberg.
Going into this season feeling comfortable at second, and I hope to work a little bit harder, being a better hitter.
This is a tie ball game.
The Sandberg game. It's one of the most famous games in baseball history.
Oh, deep left center. Look out. Do you believe it? It's gone.
The 84 season, that changed everything for me. I think that was the first year that I felt like I was a major league player. Changed my whole view of what it felt like to win. Now play in front of a full house at Wrigley Field.
Why does he win Gold Gloves? Pretty easy to answer. Sandberg's got to hurry and got him in time. The center! A great catch by Sandberg! 480 chances. Airless for Sandberg. Sandberg!
Rhino hits his 40th home run. He has now hit more home runs than any second baseman in history.
The sentiments of Ryne Sandberg echoing throughout the ballpark on this his final day.
Everybody on their feet. Look at that. We'll never forget you, Rhino.
I dreamed of this as a child, but I had too much respect for baseball to think this was ever possible. Thank you, and go Cubs. Commitment, work ethic, and dreams. Those are all good words. Faith, family, friends, and love. They are probably the best words for me.
Beautifully done by the Cubs. Absolutely beautifully done. When I think of Sandberg and his play, it's hard to it's hard to pick one aspect that I think of more than any other. He was such a great hitter. He was such a great fielder. I mean, he was a true could do it all and did do it all. Absolute legend in Chicago.
Yeah, obviously last week it was a little hard for me to kind of just wrap up when we're kind of breaking that news last week, and I had the game on afterwards, or at least some of the post game stuff, and the way that they were down big at that point. I think they were down 8-3 or 8-4 when the news broke because they were playing Milwaukee last week. And it just kind of, the fact that it was a blowout, obviously it wasn't good for the record, but it was good for the announcers to be able to spend a whole lot of time throughout the rest of the game memorializing Sandberg. And then the post game was really powerful. Marquee had they had Bob Costas on to talk about the Sandberg game and all of that. That was really consumed the rest of my Monday night, I'd say, and part of Tuesday, just mentally. And it's obviously being a Cub fan and growing up playing the sport. It's one of the reasons I always wanted to play second base. Because of Rhino, and I always thought it would be cool to have a set of those flip down sunglasses. Again, that's a Rhino thing. It's just really special. I kind of mentioned last week that it kind of felt that the Cubs organization might have thought something was coming with some of the appearances of some former players that, not in Sandberg's era, but at least who knew him, obviously, in that fraternity of being a Cub. And, some of the tributes that were happening, the jersey wearings that were happening. And then, of course, they had, I believe it was Friday's game, they had, that was their first home game since Rhino died. They had Sutcliffe, Dawson, and Dunston take a fresh base to second base, remove the base that was there. It was a memorial second base that they put in for the game on Friday. And then Saturday, they had every player wore 23 jerseys with no names on them, similar to that era. Fittingly, the first play of that game on Saturday was a ground ball to second base, and the second baseman obviously wearing 23. So it was really, really quite special how they handled it, and really how they made it. They made it special for Cubs fans this weekend, and they had. It was already scheduled, but they had a radiothon on the Score, the Cubs, the Chicago sports radio station already had their radiothon scheduled for it's a fundraiser for cancer, and they raised $750,000 Friday into Saturday.
That's awesome.
So that was really special, just really neat how the community made it so special, that camaraderie it felt among Cub fans for a few days last week. Certainly took away. I mean, I think, and we'll get into this a little bit more, I think a better trade deadline would have made this a little sweeter, because it feels like they almost used it to deflect a bit. But everything that they did was done right. The statue being done last year, and having the team, they were getting ready for a game, and having the team come out and see the statue dedication, because it ended up being like a Sunday night game that got flexed to Sunday night, I think. And so, having the players be a part of that ceremony last year, I give Council a lot of crap, obviously, but that's something that he handled really well with this whole last year or so. And what's really crazy about all this is that, a year ago on that very same radiothon, Rhino announced that he was in remission, and then in December it was back. So it really has been a brutal couple years for Cub fans with one of their own going through that battle. And it's, it's just, he was a special player. He was a special human. That's even the bigger focus. You hear more and more about just the kind of human he was, the family man that he was. And it just really, it was certainly a rough few days as a Cub fan, and it was certainly nice to have those tributes over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the all-time great Cubs. Two names I always think of when I think of Cubs in a historical sense. Ernie Banks and Ryne Sandberg are always the first two that pop to my mind, even before Sosa, even before Wood. Those are always the first two names that come to my mind.
And you brought up Ernie. I think Rhino kind of became my generation's Mr. Cub in a lot of ways. Just because a lot of people my age obviously didn't see Ernie play.
Right.
So I think Rhino kind of took that spot for a lot of Cub fans, and he's the reason a lot of players became Cub fans.
Yeah, a very worthy successor to take on the title of Mr. Cub from Ernie Banks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, rest in peace, Rhino. All right, and then we had MLB loves their one-offs. We know this. They usually do a pretty good job. With the 2025 Speedway Classic that was over at Bristol Motor Speedway. It was supposed to be on Saturday. Mother Nature decided not to cooperate in the absolute slightest. I think they got a third of an inning in and had to call it. And the Reds got some hits that really they probably shouldn't have even tried to start it Saturday. To be honest, the weather really they should have just pushed it instead of trying to start it. But hey, all's well that ends well. Atlanta got a trophy at least, because that's the only trophy they're going to see this year. So at least they got one. It was a neat game. It was. Eli White, he became the first player not only to homer once but to homer twice at a NASCAR track. Eli White is also going to carry the unique distinction of being the only player in MLB history to ever hit a major league home run in the state of Tennessee, until they expand and put a franchise in Tennessee. But we'll see if that ever that's going to be tough, because Tennessee would be a great place to put an MLB franchise, but you're going to have blowback from the Guardians, the Reds, and the Braves, who all claim territorial areas of Tennessee. So probably that would be a difficult place to place a team, but it would probably be a good place.
and it's also something to figure out is where you would put them, because Nashville, you've got the Nashville Sounds, the AAA for the Brewers, and then you've got the Knoxville Smokies in Knoxville, and that's the Cubs. So like, there's not a whole. I mean, you have to figure out a city to do it. And if you went as far as close to Kentucky, then you'd have all sorts of problems, because you've got all the Texas teams and
right.
All of the Chicago White Sox, Reds, just everybody.
Yeah, it's that's the one thing people don't really talk about when they're like, all right, let's expand baseball. All right, these are the great cities, but you have to look at the teams and their territories and what they're willing to give up. And there's not as many easily enticing cities as people think there are unless they want to leave the country. So, that's just thoughts there. But I, having been to a Sounds game, that's a beautiful park. Don't ever move the Nashville Sounds out of that park. I would go back down there and see a game in a heartbeat. I had such a good time the last time I went down there. And let me tell you, Joe, the padding on the seats for a big guy like me, very much appreciated. So, like I said, Eli White with his torpedo bat, 2 home runs. He said after the game, cool trivia has always been cool to be a part of. So, yeah, that's super special to be a part of that. And let's remember, if Acuna hadn't strained his calf on Tuesday, he wouldn't have even been in the lineup. So, it's just one of those baseball moments that, hey, that's baseball for you. Waldrop wouldn't have come up if the rain hadn't forced the game to be moved to Sunday, because he was brought up as MLB let them each team bring up a replacement player, and Waldrop did a great job, 5 2/3, 3 hits, and earned run, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. That's his first ever major league win after a really, really rough run of it last year as a rookie. So it was good to see Waldrop pitch really well. Yeah, it was a very interesting park. I mean, if you watch any of the highlight videos from what they got in on Saturday before they decided to call it, like the field's trashed. Like, there is puddled water in the infield. It's a turf field because they didn't want to bring grass in for one game, which is dumb. Honestly, the run Cincinnati got in the first inning were an absolute gift. And they never should have even let it get to that point. The field was not in a playable condition on Saturday, in my frankly humble opinion. So, like Saturday night, instead of coming home, they had to go back to the hotels. They actually had to wake Waldrop up at midnight Saturday and say, hey, we're driving you back to Bristol because we need you to pitch Sunday. So literally, he was picked up at 5 a.m. and driven the 5 hours to Bristol. And it really impressive to pitch that well when, when you're called on such short notice like that. So really, really cool. I'm part of the Tomahawk Talk group on Facebook. So a lot of the members of that group were actually at that game, because it's mostly people that live in the southern states area around, Georgia, Florida, and the surrounding areas. A lot of people did get tickets to it. And had a lot of very interesting reports from the people that were at the game. Let's see. Let me pull some of these up, and let me see if I can share some of these pictures too that people sent in. Let me see if that's going to be cooperative and pull up here. All right, here we go. I think I got the right tab. So one of the pictures, Major League fail on MLB Braves Reds. Bristol game was the MLB version of Firefest. Awful logistics, no food except for bunless hot dogs and cheeseless nachos, multiple shuttles to even get into the stadium, and completely unprepared for rain. I think that's absolutely a fair assessment of everything. They did not have things very well set up to be prepared for the rain. That's kind of disappointing, because that's usually the kind of stuff MLB does really well. So, the logistics were just not handled great, which is kind of disappointing to see. How do you not order enough hot dog buns, especially when you're trying to cram 80,000 people into the stadium to set a record? Like, come on.
Yeah, it seems to me as if this is one of those rare moments where the one-off does not go the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
They definitely did not perform, up to their illustrious standards when it comes to the one-off this time.
Yeah. Like, this is one of the seats somebody had. That was their view. Like, you couldn't pay me to sit there. You wouldn't be able to see the game. You've got all these freaking stanchions supporting the upper deck. Like, it's completely blocking your view. Here's another view from the seats way out in the bleachers. This was taken Sunday. good God, you can't see anything. And I understand they had the video board up and it was super high def and this and that. And let's be real, as much fun as I like to make of the Phillies' ridiculously sized video board in left field, these were all probably bigger and even still not big enough. Like even a Jerry Jones, Jerry World style screen is not going to be big enough for a stadium of this size. I love Tyler Stevenson's catcher's gear. He went with the Ricky Bobby style. Really great job by Nike to get this, or whoever did it, to get this replicated. I thought that looked fantastic. Yeah, somebody had seats down here. Like you can't even see the state. You can't even see the field there. Like you shouldn't have been charged for your seat there. They should have just said, "Hey, come on, these are crap seats, and you can only see the video board, but here you go, you're here." And then at the end of the game, blooper with the flag and the Braves with the one trophy they will get for this horrendous season that we are having. One thing I thought that was really cool, though, they did. They brought out a home run pace car whenever someone hit a home run. I thought that was actually pretty cool. I'll show you the video quick. I actually thought that was pretty neat. So here's Eli White's.
That ball's hit hard, deep to left field. It is gone. Eli White with a 3-run home run to put the Braves in front. There's your car. Whew, I don't want to be holding that sign. Oh, man, on the car's window. But this ball was down the line. And we saw yesterday in batting practice, down the line and in right field, the ball is jumping. We've got an enclosed stadium, basically.
Heated benches and a wild play. I started this breakdown so
yeah. Sorry, John Boy. So, they had a lot of good touches. They had like a whole little carnival set up outside with the Ferris wheel. So from the people that were there, they said like the tailgate area was really neat. The experience for the kids around like the carnival zone with the Ferris wheel and stuff, really well done. They had a lot of neat like track history stuff out, some baseball history stuff out. First pitch was thrown by Chipper Jones to Johnny Bench. That's so cool. Bring out two of the franchise's legends for it. It's just they never MLB did not properly prepare for the weather for this game. Bristol Motor did not have adequate amount of food. You saw how empty the stands were for Sunday because hotel prices in the area were $400+ a room for Saturday into Sunday. So nobody could afford to stay and go back Sunday to see the rest of the game. And it's a real pity because the game on Sunday was actually a pretty decent game. If it was on a really hokey-ass field. It's MLB doesn't usually have a lot of problems with their one-offs. You and I love the one-off games. This one, they really didn't get all the logistics correct. I really hope this stays a one-off. I don't want to see a Bristol Motor game every year. Kind of cliche for me. Leave it at a one-off and let it go from there. Interesting fun fact though, Joe, you could fit 2 Truist Parks inside of Bristol Motor Speedway. Like it's a monster. It really is. So a lot of fun. Blooper was having the time of his life. Blooper's social media was having fun the whole week leading in. He posted. I don't know if you know this, Joe. Blooper has a hate feud with Billy the Marlin, kind of like Gritty and the Penguin from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Blooper's hate feuds with Billy the Marlin, and he was pictured with I forget who it was from NASCAR, maybe Michael Waltrip or someone, and Blooper posted, "Hey, Michael just told me he thinks Billy the Marlin's a creep too." So, Blooper was rolling down the track and having a blast. So, everybody that the teams brought there, everybody had fun. It looked like a fun event. It's just a pity they didn't make the call earlier when they saw the weather was just going to be absolute crap to postpone ahead of time. So people that had to drive from way far away didn't have to come in, could have stayed home and then maybe gone the next day, or, the contingency plans weren't well done by MLB and all that. And again, unusual, but it looks like at the very least the players had a blast, and I think that's the most important thing. Aside from the fact that the Braves finally won a game and actually won a series, thank God. Although we were not able to snap Cincinnati's streak of not being swept this season. Who would have thought at this point in the year the Cincinnati Reds are the only team in baseball that has not been swept? Holy crap.
Hey, that's awesome. Good for them.
It really is. I like seeing it. They're a fun, frisky team.
Unfortunately, that streak's going to continue through at least this series tomorrow because they won last night, and I'm sure the Cubs will lose the next two, or at least one of the next two. So, yeah.
Hey, well,
more on that later, as we say.
More on that later. Before we hop into the trade deadline, I did want to bring up an awesome note from our hometown. We're both Warwick alumni. One of our fellow grads, Colby Martin, he's been promoted from the Miami Marlins AA affiliate, the Pensacola Blue Wahoos in the Southern League. In 10 games at single A Bellio, he was 1-1 with a 2.70 ERA and 16 strikeouts and 10 innings pitched. So they like what they see out of Colby, and he's moving on up to AA. So Colby, congratulations, man. Keep up the good work. All right, Joe. So that was a really, really interesting trade deadline. Let's just start. Let's just start by calling it what it is. It was an interesting trade deadline. I, like you, have a lot of feelings about who won, who lost. This one really didn't go the way I think most people were expecting it to go. Let's start out with a team that I think everybody is going to agree was one of the trade deadline winners, especially since he's not here to say it himself. The Phillies had a great trade deadline. They got their closer finally. They went big on Duran from Minnesota when Minnesota decided, things are really turning south around here. So let's start trading off pieces because we need to. And the trade for Duran, I was really, really impressed with the return for Philadelphia. I mean, did they have to give up prospects? Yes. And you knew to get a closer of Duran's status, they were going to have to give up big pieces. And let's be real, it's the trade deadline. Nobody makes deals without giving up pieces if you're going for those big high impact players. The Phillies bullpen has been their weak spot the last couple of years. Jason would probably fairly argue it's been their weak spot since they won their last World Series in 2008. And he's really not wrong about that because when you go from a closer who had a perfect season to what the hell is this bullpen for the next decade and a half, you get that feeling, and I get it. And really, the prospect price was big. Mick Abel is probably going to be a good pitcher for the Twins now. He has played a little bit the MLB level, so he already has some experience up. And Tate was a very, very well-regarded catcher, one of the top 10 catching prospects in all of baseball, and he's young. He's not 19 yet. So honestly, it's a great win-win for both guys. It matches needs for both teams. It restocks the Twins farm system, and it gives the Phillies the shutdown arm they need to be able to match up in the playoffs. Because right now, who are they bringing out against the Trumpets from New York and Edwin Diaz? They didn't have that guy before they got Duran. So I think the Phillies had one of the most productive trade deadlines. They also got Bader from the Twins as well. Since Jason's not here, what are your thoughts on the Phillies trade deadline?
I mean, like you said, they addressed a definite need that they had, and they went for what they needed without really caring too much. I mean, to me, obviously Abel at one point was their number two. He was their number 6 at the time of the trade, given some issues he's had. Tate was number 4 in the entire MLB, I believe, or at least in the Phillies.
Yeah, he was really high in the MLB overall.
Right.
I'll give him
but I think, for the Phillies, what you see in the Phillies is we know this is what we've got. We've got an aging core. We've got some guys that are going to be free agents in November. What are we going to do about it? And they went ahead and said, we're going for it. You got to love the instinct by Dombrowski here. You got to like the moves they made, the improvements they made. And I mean, the video of Durant's entrance from the other night, my goodness.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that stadium in October with him coming out? Good grief. Good luck.
Gonna be rocking. That place is going to be absolutely rocking. It definitely rivals Edwin Diaz's entrance in New York. So well done by the Phillies multimedia team to get that thrown together so quickly. Because the way they dim the lights down, and it's a freaking awesome entrance. Warwick High School's band director Matt Tenalia, big Phillies fan, was actually there at that first game and got to witness the new entrance, and he said he had goosebumps for an hour after the game. He thought it was so good. So he was a big fan of it. He loved the deal, obviously. Eduardo Tate is the number 56 overall in the MLB top 10 right now, and he is the number 4 prospect in the Twins organization. So not an insignificant piece to give up there by the Phillies.
Yeah, and they did need an outfield bat. It may not have been the one that I think a lot of people thought they were going to go for, but it still is an improvement over what they have. So the Phillies got significantly better last Thursday. There's no doubt.
What I like about the Harrison Bader trade is Bader can play anywhere in the outfield. So he can, Marsh has been okay. He's not great, but he's been okay. Kepler's been very much below average. Rojas has been garbage at the plate. So it gives the Phillies not only a better bat to slot in for most of the lineup, but when they pull Marsh late to bring Rojas in, they can move Bader over, or if Marsh is in the they've got more options to play a better defensive lineup play. And let's remember, in the playoffs, that's where you see teams doing that, because defense wins games. And when you're up 2-1 in the 8th inning and you have your closer coming out and for a 4-out save, and you can't risk anything, you bring your best gloves out regardless of how well they hit. And now the Phillies are in a much better position to do that. So I think it's safe to say one of the biggest winners, without a doubt, has to be Philadelphia. Dealing Dave, his moniker and nickname for a reason, and he did it. And it's, if the Phillies can pull out a World Series ring, nobody's going to care about the prospects lost. If they don't, and Abel turns out to be a Cy Young Award winner in Minnesota, there will be questions down the line. But to the people that ask those questions down the line, let's remember, none of you are complaining about it right now.
Right.
All right, Joe, give me a winner.
Yeah, I think you have to like. You know what? We're going to do a twofer here because I think both New York teams did what they had to do at the deadline. You have the following outfield options now in the Bronx. You have in the late innings, you've got David Bednar, you've got Camilo Doval, Devin Williams. I know he's been down lately, but you have Devin Williams still if he can figure it out, or you move him around a bit. You have Luke Weaver and you have Tim Hill. Like, you have a lot of great options if you're Aaron Boone right now in that bullpen, towards the late innings. I think that's the big highlight. Obviously, they shored up third base with Ryan McMahon, which caught a lot of us by surprise because the Rockies don't really make the deals with the tradable talent they have. So, the big moves that the Yankees made were extremely helpful, obviously, and I think it makes a huge difference in that AL East for them. I think with the Mets, the fact that you are now going from, you're going from Gregory Soto to Tyler Rogers got. You have Tyler Rogers, you got Gregory Soto, and you've got Cedric Mullins improves the outfield a lot for them. There's another arm they got, and the name's escaping me for a moment. But
second here, I'm looking. Helsley.
Yeah, I mean to have that many options in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning, 6th inning, even this time of the year, and going into the sprint to the postseason, you have to like where you're sitting right now. You really do. I mean, did they get rid of a lot of guys in the trades? The Mets, two of those relievers, yes. But again, a team that senses it's time to win now, and they have the talent to do it, and isn't afraid of taking a risk on the rentals that they picked up.
Yeah, the Mets sent a lot of talent out. You can't deny that this was a very expensive deadline for the Mets. You also can't deny the Mets got a lot of good talent back in for it. I think Helsley was they definitely overpaid for Helsley. I'm not sure I really think that was a great move. I love the Rodgers deal, although I know a lot of people thought they gave up way too much for Rodgers. But I actually really like Rodgers because he is so hard to hit hard from that freaking submarine sidearm arm slot he has. He has had such a fantastic season. At the trade deadline, he was at a 180 ERA over 50 innings. Now, he doesn't strike out a lot, only 38 strikeouts, but he doesn't walk a lot of guys, 4 walks in the season. And I know they gave up a lot for a guy who's about to walk, but I like that deal actually more than the Helsley deal. I know the pundits didn't agree with me. I think most of the pundits preferred the other deal, but And
yeah, I mean, I think the thing about the Helsley deal that was so surprising is that it's like, well, Helsley's a closer, so figuring out what you do is just how they adjust to that role, because we've seen a lot of guys who they go from being the everyday closer to being a setup guy, and it just doesn't work. A la Ryan Presley, who is now thankfully off the Cubs. The Astros picked up Hader a few years ago, and that totally destroyed Presley's ability and his confidence.
Agreed. That's going to be really interesting to see, because some of those guys can shift to the setup role. A lot of them can't. And I almost wonder, did they grab Helsley for the bullpen this year to maybe pull a Clay Holmes and move him to the starting rotation next year? I don't know. It's an interesting question to ask. Also, can I just ask, are we at the point yet where we can where we can legally change the name of the New York Mets to the New York Sotos? Or do they need to get at least one more Soto on the roster?
They need to have probably at least 3 more to be 20% of the regular everyday roster.
Yeah, but the Mets have a damn deep bullpen now, and considering their starters do not go deep, they are in the bottom 10, I believe, for innings pitched out of starters this year. So a deep bullpen is going to be a must for a Mets team that is built for and pushing hard to get in the playoffs, because the offense is there. We've seen it all year, even throughout the little slump they had in the middle of the season. Their offense is still there and it's still hitting. They just needed more arms to get from the starters to Edwin Diaz, and without a doubt, they accomplished that. As far as the Yankees go, Joe, I was surprised. I was surprised to see Colorado making trades, as you pointed out. I did not expect that in the slightest, because how many years have we thought, all right, the Rockies are selling this year? The Rockies are why didn't the Rockies do anything? The Rockies are selling. No, the Rockies didn't do anything again. And really, the cost to get Ryan McMahon was just Griffin Herring and Josh Groves. I'm really kind of surprised that that's all they could get for Ryan McMahon. The thing I love most about that trade, the Yankees have garbage defense, and McMahon will shore up third base very well for them. That was a trade I almost feel like they had to make, because third base has been such a hole they don't know what to do with. So I did love that trade for them. I'm not the other arms. They're fine. I don't have a strong feel one way or the other for whether it was a good deal or not. But the McMahon trade absolutely had to happen. And even though New York has floundered, and let's be real, a good portion of that goes to the injured Aaron Judge. Losing one of the best bats in baseball is going to affect any lineup, good or bad. So you can't completely put the little swoon the Yankees are on the fact that, they should have stayed pat, or they should have done this. No, you can't predict an injury. I mean, you can in some cases, Mike Soroka, but you can't predict an injury. Yeah, I know. Sorry, dude. It hurts. Dude, the Soroka injuries hurt me way more than they ever hurt you, dude. Sorry. So it's, is it going to be the right call for the Yankees in the end? Who knows? Because you can never say at the trade deadline, yay or nay. I think it was a good deadline, though, for the Yankees. They made the moves they had to make. Let's see. What did you think of the Padres? Because the Padres, in what has become very typical fashion for the Padres, decided to say, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. As they have done many, many times at the trade deadline, they are more than happy to mortgage the future to play for today. And a lot of it I liked. I think they made a lot of good moves. And a lot of them, I'm thinking to myself, what were we thinking here, guys? Because there were a lot of moves that I really did not like.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I'd say about the Padres is, I think, look, AJ Preller's making a name for himself, and he's doing a damn good job of it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Their GM, paying the price they paid for Miller, getting rid of MLB Pipeline's number 3 overall prospect in DeVries. I don't know if I'd have been comfortable doing it, but you have to keep in mind that Miller is controllable through 2029, so that's ridiculous. How long they're going to have him around. To me, I admire the gusto, I guess we can call it, to really just go for it. I think they got better. I'm a little surprised that they didn't end up trading anybody away. Some of their top guys, with some of the acquisitions they made with Miller and Sears. I'm a little surprised that they didn't, have a deal for Suarez or a deal for Cease to sort of not overkill the rotation or overkill the pitching setup. But I think, do I think it's going to push them over the top in October? No, because they've had a lot of this talent and they haven't gotten over the hump come the playoffs. So, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if they do get over the hump. They did get Nestor Cortez as well. They had a catcher, Freddie Furman from the Royals.
Yeah.
So I think they got infinitely better. I just don't know if if it's enough, I guess you can say, given the way that the team as a whole has performed in the postseason in the past.
I think the best deal they made was the Furman deal, to be honest with you, because they were getting some of the worst production in the league out of catching before the Furman deal. So that was one kind of like the Phillies outfield. You had nowhere to go but up. Like, you literally could have traded for almost anybody and improved because of how bad your catching was. They were, before the trade, Joe, they were ranked 30th in WAR for catcher.
Yeah.
So Furman, he's a great defensive catcher. He's going to control the run game better. He's not Drake Baldwin, Murphy, Real Muto. He's not going to be one of those better tier hitting catchers. But even if you can get a guy that can control the run game better, that's a huge plus. And the fact that he hits better than what they had when he's not a great hitter to start with makes it, in my mind, very much worth the prospect cost that they sent away, which, it was 2 pitchers. So, it's Furman. The Royals fans are probably not super happy about that deal because Furman's ability to produce and his defense has let the Royals move Salvador Perez around to first base and DH more, but they also have other catching prospects coming up. They've got Carter Jensen in AAA, who in only 22 games has hit 8 homers and put up a 938 OPS. So they have plenty of catching depth behind. So I don't mind giving up Furman. And the fact that, and also let's keep in mind too, the Royals lost Bubik, they lost Reagans, they lost Lorenzen. So getting another starter was what was unfortunately a necessary evil for the Royals at that point. They needed to get more pitching from somewhere, and hey, this is the way to do it. I think it really was a good win-win trade both ways. So I'm not convinced wholly that the Padres should be winners. Now, if they pull off the series, yeah, we'll look back and say, what a great trade deadline. Like we did in 21 when Andopoulos brought in a whole bunch of outcast outfielders and turned it into a World Series. Winning a World Series gives you a hell of a lot of wiggle room when looking back and questioning decisions. And that goes in any sport. This isn't just a baseball thing. That's any sport. Your GM, if he can get the team together that brings in the championship, he gets a little leeway in his decisions. So, you said it best. Preller's making a name for himself. Is it the right name? We'll find out in the end if it's the right name or the wrong name. But I will say this: when this current Padres core retires or moves on, I do believe that the Padres are going to be looking at quite a bit of a rebuild for quite some time because there's not much.
I'd say that's fair. They certainly went all in for the next few years.
Now, my personal biggest winner of the deadline is without a doubt the Mariners. They got freaking Eugenio Suarez from the Diamondbacks, who was the best player made available, I think. And honestly, they didn't give up as much as I thought it was going to cost to get him. They had to give up Tyler Locklear and then first baseman and 2 right-handers, Juan Burgos and Hunter Cranton. I really thought that the Diamondbacks were going to be able to get more out of Eugenio Suarez. Do you think it was more the buyers were holding firm, not going after bigger prices? Because I mean, you look at what the A's got for Mason Miller, like we just talked about, or do you think do you think the Diamondbacks botched it?
As far as just going back to the Mason Miller deal for a second, I mean, the fact that you're giving up at least finally a top 5 in the entire league. I mean, I think San Diego hit at least what they, at least the minimum of what they should have given away to get him. To me, this feels like a complete screw up. If you're the Diamondbacks, because I don't see how 2 guys or 3 guys that most people have never heard of is enough to get one of the best hitters in the sport right now. I really don't understand that. I mean, I'm sure I'll get into a little bit more of that later, but you know, it just seems to me like, you know, for the most part, outside of the Miller deal, there might have been one other deal where you actually had to get rid of a top 2, 3 guy. And to me, that's just mind blowing that we didn't have more higher level guys going in return for a lot of these trades. That's the thing that confused me the most about the entirety of the deadline. You know, if I'm, you know, a follower of the sport and I don't know who half these guys are going back, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Yeah, Jerry DiPoto was, you know, it looks like ownership's finally letting him take on some money and, you know, roll with it. I mean, God, at the season Cal rallies having, you have to let him bring guys in. And also,
I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
I mean, adding him and adding Josh Naylor, I mean, Raleigh is ultra protected now because you pitch around him and one of those 2 guys is going to hit it out. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's I really feel like that was definitely 2 moves they had to make.
Yeah. The Diamondbacks got a much better return on Naylor, I think, in the left-hander Brandon Garcia, right-hander Ashton Izzy, excuse me, not Isri. It's I you know, Garcia was number 13, Izzy was number 16 in the Mariners list, but let's remember the Mariners are not the Padres. Mariners 13 and 16 is a lot better than almost anybody in the Padres top 30 before the deadline. You know, outside of the guy they traded away to the Athletics. So I actually just checked. The Padres have 1 prospect left in MLB's top 100 prospects. I mean, it's bad. Cupboard's pretty bare. So, yeah, I think the Mariners were arguably probably the biggest winners of the deadline. I mean, as much good as the Mets and the Phillies had, I think the Mariners, for me, of the buyers, were the biggest winners.
I think what to me makes them the winner is the fact that they didn't have to give hardly anything up.
Yeah.
That's the thing that makes them a winner to me, not necessarily the totality of what they did. I thought they could have done with getting at least one or 2 maybe pitching arms or another, you know, utility type player or something, you know, to completely bolster that team. But I think they're definitely winners based on the limited return they had to get rid of.
So, Joe, this is post-trade deadline. Guess how many prospects the Mariners have in MLB's top 100?
I don't know.
8.
How the heck do you get one of the 2 best hitters in the league in Suarez and still have that many guys? I don't understand that.
And that's what makes the Suarez trade even more curious to me because, you know, the Naylor I thought the Naylor trade, like I said, I thought that was a fair return for the Diamondbacks for Naylor. But the fact that that's all they got for Suarez when the Mariners literally are dripping in riches in their top 30, and that's the best you got. They really I got a lot of questions about that particular trade and what the hell the Diamondbacks were thinking. I mean, the Diamondbacks have 3 guys in the top 100 now. Their top guy is number 11, but still, yeah, it was very questionable. Do you want to talk about the Cubbies?
Sure, why not? This is a team that, you know, I felt going into the deadline, and I think a lot of people felt you needed to have, you know, a utility style player or, you know, or a third baseman who can hit the heck out of the ball, particularly against left-handed pitching. And you needed to have at least probably 2 to 3 bullpen arms and 1 or 2 starters. I think I think 2-2 and one hitter, I think was definitely at least the minimum it felt like they needed to get. And this is a team that's really confusing to me, because if you go and get a Kyle Tucker in the offseason, and then you have the team that shot out of like a cannon at the beginning of the year, there wasn't a better team for 3 months. And to go into this deadline, and this is no disrespect to some of the pieces here, but I mean, Willie Castro might be the best pickup of the entire deadline for them. And I don't know that he's going to play every day. I think when you look at pitching, they clearly needed to get a starter, and Soroka wasn't the answer. I don't think he could have been one of two, and I would have been okay with it. But to be the only starter that you get, and then to add insult to injury, he pitches 2 innings and then goes on the IL. I mean, we know as covering him in his earlier career, the guy's injury prone. So if that's what you're hanging your hat on, good luck to you. I don't quite understand. We kind of had Jed Hoyer get his extension last Monday, and there were 2 schools of thought. One of them was, okay, now he's going to be a little different because he's going to have to live with it, and that could either be a good thing or a bad thing. It turns out that Jed Hoyer is the only one who benefited in the Cubs organization from the trade deadline, and I'm freaking tired of it. So to give you an idea of just what the offensive production's been off for a couple of their bigger stars, the Cubs right now, in the last 15 games going into tonight, PCA was 15 for 55 from the plate. 11 Ks in the last 7 games and 20 in the last 15 games. Tucker's numbers, not much better, probably worse. 25 for 105 in the last month at the plate. He scored 18 runs, only 2 home runs, 12 RBIs, and a slash line for your premier hitter, or one of your premier hitters, for the last month was 238, 367, 343.
Oh, that's hideous.
And you have a guy, Seiya, who everybody, including me, thought was a snub at the All-Star break, and he's only driven in 5 guys since. So the entirety of your offensive production fell off the face of the earth in the last 2 weeks, because if Bushy, Tucker, Seiya, and PCA aren't hitting like they were for the first 2.5 months, I mean, Dansby is streaky as all heck. Nico is a great hitter, but he's not a power hitter.
Yeah.
So Castro is going to provide some lift, and he'll be good for them. He certainly has been able to spell some guys in the last week, but it just feels like to me, when you look at the Phillies and you look at the Cubs, since those are teams that we're both pretty close to, I guess. You have 2 different philosophies. You have Dombrowski, who knows he's losing a couple of guys in the next year or 2, and this is their chance to go for it, and they go for it. And then you have a team in the Cubs who goes for it in the offseason and then has a timid trade deadline. And it makes no sense to me, because when you look at, and some of this goes back to Theo a little bit, Theo's philosophy was you want to have a great team every year, and one of those years it's going to work, right? One of those years everything's going to go the way it's supposed to go, and you're going to get there. And I think that's the philosophy Jed's taken on. They want to be competitive every year, or some other bullshit line he gives. But the difference is, when you look at 2016 for the Cubs, they had a glaring hole, and they did everything they could to fill it.
Yep.
In getting Chapman. And this year they didn't do that. You lost a division lead a week going into the deadline. You would have lost a division. You're playing against the team that's right behind you in the division this week. This thing completely baffles me. And the unfortunate part about all of this is, I know we've talked a bit about, over the years, how good Cub fans are, how much they travel, this, that, and the other thing. There's no incentive for Hoyer, Hawkins, and Ricketts to do the right thing when every other Friday on a homestand, that stadium is packed at 1:30 in the afternoon. There's no incentive for them to do what the Padres are doing, or do what the Phillies are doing, or do what the Mets are doing. I know the Mets have stupid money, but like, we talked about this a lot last week in the group chat. Like, if you're going up against the team that you've been chasing, you're now chasing them again. And you're chasing this team who has lost the following players and personnel in the last 3 years. They lost Burns. They lost Adames. They lost Woodruff for a year and a half. They lost Devin Williams. You took their manager from them. And the Mets took David Stearns from them. And they're still better than you. Like, I'm sick and tired of a team that isn't a small market team acting like a small market team. It's mind blowing to me. Like, do your job, man. I don't want to hear, well, the price was too high. And if you're not going to get rid of Owen Casey, if you're not going to get rid of Ballesteros, if you're not going to get rid of Triantos, who's been sitting down there for years, all three of those guys have been, then what are we doing? And if you're not going to get rid of them, then fucking play them. John Birdie does not belong on this roster. Brujan got DFA'd. Presley got DFA'd. John Birdie doesn't belong on this roster. There's a lot of guys who don't. And, like, I'm going to sound like old me for a bit here, but send Hap down to Des Moines for a month. I don't give a shit. You have all of the issues with Tucker, PCA, and Seiya, and Bushy, and then you have a guy in Ian Happ who's, last time I looked, was batting like 170 over the last month, and he's just not productive. So, like, if you're going to not get rid of these pieces that are high-level, high-marketable pieces, then what are we doing here? Because there's no way you can tell me that you couldn't have gotten a package to the D-backs to get Shelby Miller. There's no way you can tell me you couldn't have the package to do that. Or a Griffin Jax from the Twins. Or Kyle Finnegan from the Nationals. Like, you can't tell me that we don't, as an organization, have the pieces to get these guys. You just can't. And if you're not going to part with prospects are only as good as the value they give you on the field. I don't care about rankings. I don't care about number 600 in the pipeline. I don't give a shit. Can they play? And these guys can clearly play, so if you're not going to trade them, play them.
I don't disagree with any of that. Since July 1st, Ian Happ is slashing 187, 292, 341. I said it a couple weeks ago right before the All-Star break. Michael Harris needed to be sent down to get his head out of his behind and start hitting again. And I will give Harris credit. Since the All-Star break, he has been better. He's not where he needs to be by any small stretch of the imagination, but he has been better. And he also had games where he was not playing the full game. But since the All-Star break, like, he's been hitting 375, 4, 3656. So, even just sitting guys sometimes is enough to get them out of their heads. But I think you're right with Hap. Send them down. You've got prospects ready to come up that need to prove their worth. And I don't care what kind of a deal they're on. Harris just signed a huge extension last year or the year before that. I don't care. He still has minor league options. Send him down. You got to do what you got to do is for the best of the club. And I was looking more into the Soroka trade. What I really don't like is his velocity's been dropping over his last few starts to the point where before his last start with the Nationals, he had an MRI, which didn't show anything. But Hoyer said that risk profile was known. We spent a lot of time on that. We did a lot of due diligence, a ton of research. And if it doesn't work out, it's on me. Well, yeah, it's on you, dumbass. You're the guy in charge of making the wheeling and dealing moves. So his injury history is well known. Before he tore his Achilles the first time during the 2020 season against the Mets, he looked like he was going to be the next ace of the Atlanta Braves for a long time. Great velocity, fantastic control, could bend the freaking ball like Beckham, to throw a soccer reference in there. Excuse me, a football reference in there for everybody. And he's never been the same since he retore it and had to have surgery again, just walking into the clubhouse. Let's remember how he retore it. Just popped and had to have surgery again. And the Achilles, it's an awful injury. It doesn't matter what the sport is. You pop that Achilles and it's a nonstop problem. I'm not sure, given the Cubs' position, I'm not sure he's the guy I take a flyer on. I don't think the risk-reward profile is there. And I'm with you, Joe. If you're not going to bring these guys up and play them, why are you just stashing them? Either use them to help the team now or send them away to get players that can help the team now. I think you're 100% correct on that.
I mean, you have one of the best middle infields defensively, at least in the National League. One of the best. And you're going to throw that away because you don't want to get rid of some guy that is raking it in AAA. And if I were his agent, I'd say trade my ass. I don't give a damn.
The Cubs have 5 prospects in the top 100. Of those 5, 3 of them are at AAA level. What the hell are they? I just don't understand. I really don't.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I do think that if they hadn't traded for Tucker, maybe Casey is up to start the year. I don't know that for sure, but I think that's probably what would have happened. Right now, given Tucker's production, Jed looks like the loser on that deal because Cam Smith is killing it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a little ridiculous to me that, we continue to, as Cub fans, reward this organization that doesn't care enough to put to go for it when they have it, right? I mean, if you were having, the start to the year that, that maybe the Padres were having or that the Astros were having and you hadn't turned the corner, I could see not going real big. But you were leading the division up until a few days before the deadline. So what gives here? Like, at some point, you either have to go for broke and let the chips fall where they may, or, I don't know what to do with you. And I think he put too much focus on controllable arms when it came to pitching, guys who had a year or two of team control that weren't rentals. And I'm sorry, but Edward Cabrera from the Marlins is worth 1 or 2 of those guys.
Yeah.
Like, he just is. I don't care, that you don't want to get rid of somebody. And I think it's very telling. Their stance at the deadline, I think, is very indicative of what we're going to see this year. And I didn't have high hopes for them to extend Tucker, given the fact that they quibbled over $1.5 million in arbitration before the season even started. So, I'm sorry if you're that desperate for money, guys. maybe charge less for tickets, maybe charge less for beer, and more people will come. I mean, you already have sellouts, which it gets to my earlier point. There's no incentive for the Cubs to do anything. Zero incentive at all. It doesn't matter how bad they are. It doesn't matter how good they are. They can be straight line mediocre, which is kind of how I feel about them right now. And the stadium will be full every Friday of a homestand. It just will be.
It's true. And now for the Braves. Alexandopoulos basically stood pat. He made a few small additions because depth-wise, our pitching's been decimated. All 5 of our opening day starters are on the 60-day IL right now. So we grabbed Fetty from the Cardinals for a player to be named later who probably won't be anything major. Let's be real. The player to be named later is never a major piece. We got Carlos Carrasco from the Yankees for as a cash dump. Let me see. I think that was by and large all we did. Oh, I'm sorry. We also grabbed Tyler Kinley from the Rockies for Austin Smith, and a trade that really shakes nobody's bells. You know what I don't understand? Why I'm sorry. We also traded away a shortstop, righty Rafael Montero for Jim Jarvis, a shortstop prospect. That trade I actually didn't mind as much. Why the hell is Raisel Iglesias on his expiring contract still on this team? Why is Marcell Ozuna with his expiring contract still on this team? Andopoulos said in an interview either later that day or the next day, well, the deals weren't there and we're not giving away players for nothing. Why the hell not? We're going to get literally nothing for them when they leave in the offseason. Like they've already had we can't give them qualifying offers. That neither of them are eligible, so we're not going to comp picks back for them. So why, even if it was just a low-level flyer, which, first of all, that's not what I was hearing San Diego is willing to offer. I heard San Diego is willing to offer two of their guys in the low teens, high 20s for Ozuna because they need bats. And nothing. And I understand Ozuna's got 5 and 10 rights. He could have vetoed any trade. He's not going to play much the rest of the way, so I don't see why he wouldn't have vetoed the trade. Iglesias has not been himself this year, but still, the number of arms that moved that are not as good as Raisel Iglesias, and you're telling me you couldn't have found a team willing to throw a mid-level prospect for Iglesias. I don't buy that for a second. And then to come out and say, well, the deals weren't there and I'm not going to give players. Absolutely an asinine thing to say. The goodwill Andopoulos built up with his clever wheeling and dealing over the last couple years is really starting to erode away. I don't think he's going to get canned this offseason. Snit's going to retire. I don't know if it's been officially announced, but Snit's going to retire. And I hope to God Atlanta goes outside of the organization to replace him. We need a fresh voice. It's time. He brought us a World Series. He stabilized us after the dark years when Freddie Gonzalez basically threw the team to the wolves. And the front office did as much as they could to annihilate everything that they had depth-wise. But it's time to go out of the organization and make a new choice. And honestly, if Andopoulos has another offseason that's as ineffective as this one and another bad trade deadline next year, whether we're buying or selling, I don't think it matters. I think it's time to make a change at GM too.
Well, use that ownership power you have, brother. Man.
Yeah. We'll see how far my one vote goes.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I think as far as the Braves are concerned, I think the likelihood of a Harris being traded wasn't very high. Just I think the way that, I mean, team-friendly deals that the Braves have signed and arranged over the last couple of years, hurt them at this point because they really aren't going to be able to get rid of any of those core pieces. And I think, given the effectiveness issues that you mentioned with Iglesias, that probably translated into some of it. But the Andopoulos thing where he's like, I'm not going to give away guys for nothing. Like you said, they're not getting anything come November. So why not do something to improve your team? I think, I just can't disagree with much of what you said there. I do think, outside of our friendship in this show, I would have no idea who Snicker was because he's an internal guy. So, maybe an outside voice is the answer going forward. A fresh start, maybe, in a sense.
If I had the ability to make the call moving forward, Snicker's gone. The hitting staff is gone. Let the new manager bring in his own staff, and I'm getting rid of our strength and conditioning guys, and getting in people that do a better job at injury prevention, because that has been an ongoing issue with this team for several years now. You've got one of the greatest players in the world, Ronald Acuna, when he's healthy, and his ability to torque his body is insane. It's almost sometimes like watching the way NFL running backs are able to juke people out of their seats. He puts that much pressure on his joints. Why is he not in more of a flexibility program to make his joints better able to withstand the forces he puts on them?
Fair point.
So, yeah, if it were my call, that's what's happening this offseason. Obviously, I only have one vote, so it won't be my call. Other winners, the Orioles, I loved, they moved all their movable assets. They brought back prospects, and they're going to be fine setting up for the next couple of years. They've got a lot of talent that's getting pretty close and should be able to help augment as soon as next year, and they'll be active in free agency. We know that. The Orioles generally are.
Yeah.
So, any other big winners, losers in your book?
I think the Astros getting Correa back will
almost nothing.
Will pay dividends for them because Paredes being hurt out for the rest of the year, and him being willing to move to third, I think, is a huge deal. I don't think that it would have been hard to get him to move to third when he was, available a few years ago. Hint, Jed Hoyer, you missed out on that. But I think they definitely improved as a club. They got Ramon Urias as well. They certainly got better. I think the Blue Jays got better, maybe not significantly, but still better. The Tigers, I think, dramatically improved with the moves that they made. Getting Finnegan and Sewald. I mean, good grief.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet. Yeah. So, that's by and large where I'm at. Pirates, yeah, man. The Pirates fan base definitely has earned the right to be asking a lot of questions moving forward, mainly seriously and what the hell.
Yeah, I think, to basically get a couple of prospects for Cabrian Hayes is mind-boggling to me. I mean, if Bob Nutting, if you're not fundamentally serious, just sell the dang team, would you please? Like, this is bad for the sport that we allow this to continue to happen. It's just bad.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's do a quick down on the farm. The hitter this week is going to be, we're going to stay in AAA in the International League this week because I like the International League. It's hard not to. We're going to start with Dylan Beavers, the Norfolk Tide. That is the AAA affiliate of the Orioles. Dylan this past week hit 5 home runs in 19 at-bats, 10 runs, 8 hits, 7 RBIs, 7 walks to 3 strikeouts, so also solid candidate for Moneyball. 1 stolen base and a slash line of 421, 577, 1.211. That's not too shabby, is it?
No.
And then our pitcher, have we featured him yet? No, let's go here. We will go with Mr. Nolan McLean. Mr. McLean is a pitcher for Syracuse, the AAA affiliate of the Mets. He has actually had a pretty good season for them. 1-0 this past week in 2 starts, 11 2/3, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, a home run, a hit batsman, 6 walks to 13 strikeouts, a 1.54 ERA, a .86 WHIP, and a 1.03 batting average against. That's a solid week for the 2 young guys.
I would expect, just given what I've seen online in the Mets channels, I guess, I would expect McLean to debut maybe this week or next week.
I've heard he's probably going to come up soon.
Yeah, they had Frankie Montas pitch, I think, yesterday, and he was just dreadful. So I would expect the next time that turn comes up that McLean will get the nod.
Yeah, he's definitely earned it. He's pitched very, very well at AAA for them this year. It's time. All right, let's move it into the hot list, Joe. Let's see here. For me, do you already have Jason's favorite player on one of your lists, or should I pull him?
I don't know that I for sure know which player that is. There's a few of those.
The current front runner for MVP.
No, I do not.
All right. Well, I'm going to go Kyle Schwarber because holy hell, man. Over the past week, now this is Tuesday to Tuesday, so these numbers will be slightly off of what was otherwise expected. Slash 333, 385, 917, 4 runs, 4 homers, 10 RBIs, 1 stolen base, which is nuts. 8 hits, 2 doubles, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. I also wanted to highlight as well Trevor Story, 476, 560, 1.095, 8 runs, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 10 hits, 4 doubles, 3 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Who's your hot hitters of the week?
Well, I'll go with Gunnar Henderson from the Orioles, 391, 462, 696 through games yesterday. 7 runs on 9 hits. Or going into yesterday, I should say. 7 runs on 9 hits, 1 double, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts.
That's not bad. How about Moneyball?
Moneyball this week will end up being Freddie Freeman from the Dodgers. 550 batting average, 591 on base, 950 slugging, a 1541 OPS. He scored 4 runs on 11 hits, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts.
Not bad at all.
That on-base percentage is absolutely wild. Going before games last night, Trevor Story was easily probably going to be a possible choice as well. With 7 of his 9 hits before games yesterday were extra base hits.
Not bad.
That's productive.
Yeah. All right. For me, the pitcher this week is going to be Brian Bello of the Red Sox. 2-0 this past week in his 2 starts, 9 strikeouts, 13 innings. He only allowed 1 earned run, 11 hits, and 5 walks, 1 home run, a very nice .69 ERA, and a 1.23 WHIP. And also, let's mention his battery mate too, Lucas Giolito. 2-0 in 14 innings, also 9 strikeouts, 2 earned runs, 8 hits, 3 walks, 1 homer, 1.29 ERA, and a .79 WHIP. So Boston getting great production out of their starting pitching this past week. Who's your top pitcher this week?
I'll go with Dylan Cease from the Padres. Considering all the trade implications and rumors that were swirling in his 1 start this week, 1-0, obviously got the win. 5 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts, a .40 WHIP, a .063 batting average against.
Yeah, that's fantastic to be able to just shut everything around you out like that. Yeah, that's great focus coming in. All right, Joe, who is the adulting reliever this week?
So I am going to have a runner-up for me as Aroldis Chapman. 3 appearances, 2 for 2 in save opportunities. Only 2 innings pitched total for the week. 0 hits, no runs, and 3 strikeouts. But the winner of adulting reliever this week is Ronnie Henriquez for the Miami Marlins. 4 appearances this week, 3.2 innings pitched. No record saves or anything like that, but no hits, no runs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts.
That's awesome.
A .27 whip, and of course, no hits, so zeros on the batting average. Can't have a much better week than that.
No, you really can't. No, you'd be hard pressed to beat that. My hot team obviously is going to be the Red Sox. I mean, 9-1 in the last 10. They're on a 7-game heater right now. That goes back to having 2 of the top performing pitchers over the past week is a very good reason why you go 7 straight and 9-1 in the last 10. So the Red Sox, and I think also I'm going to toss some love up to the Cleveland Guardians as well, even as they've been selling pieces off. They're on a 2-game winning streak right now and are 7-3 in the last 10. So even though they've been kind of selling off, they did also climb back above 500, and that's dealing with some gambling allegations in the clubhouse as Class A's locker has been cleaned out. So, he doesn't have an interpreter that he can throw under the bus like Shohei. So we'll see what MLB's full investigation ends up revealing there. Sorry, did I say that out loud? My bad. Use my inside voice as my outside voice. Joe, what's your hot team this week?
I think the Marlins, they went 8-2 in their last 10 going into yesterday. So they were on fire the last week or so.
And they've come back from way under to 500 too on the season.
Yeah, to get back to 500 after being, I think, 19 back at one point throughout the year. That's excellent for them. And then I think, look, you got to give it to the Brewers. The Brewers, they were on a 3-game winning streak going into yesterday, 7-3 in the last 10, and they took the division from the Cubs.
They're beating the shit out of Atlanta tonight, so just add another win to that winning streak.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to compete with a team that just has what they need and knows how to do it and knows what they have and is willing to roll the dice on it. It doesn't hurt to get, Shelby Miller and Danny Jansen at the trade deadline either.
It really doesn't. Miller's going to be back, I think, within the next week or two, so it's not like they had to wait long to deploy their new toy.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for me. Joe, do you have anything else?
I do not.
All right, let's wrap it. Audio recordings are available on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and anywhere else you can find podcasts. We're live on YouTube and Facebook. Merchandise is at redbubble.com. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. We are presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC and sponsored by the fantastic Bear and Barbershop over in Mannheim. As you can see, the work Johnny did a couple weeks ago still looks great on me. Download the app. Any of the guys over there can get you a great cut. Guys, may your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. We will see you next week.